Hello, welcome to the Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. Welcome to Stream Street Day 135. I'm your host, and I'm joined by the wonderful Twitch chat of the Honest Wargamer. There, right here. Thank you to everyone on the podcast. Please stay hydrated, and thank you to everyone on those Wargamer Patreon. Couldn't do it without you. So hello, Twitch chat. So today's podcast and show is just going to be me chatting. So if you don't want to hear the mad ramblings of a fool, then don't listen in. But if you would like to, then sit back and enjoy. Here we go. Hey, Winner Dave. So, hello everyone in the chat. Owen Jackson, Serbator, Sir Callum, All Boy Phil, yeah, Plymouth Troll Slayers, Dreadwoods, Pete Pratt, what a legend. Scott B, Ipaca, Primark, yesterday doesn't count. This is yesterday counted. Yesterday counted. We were live. Doesn't matter how long for. Right, okay. Hello, everyone. I hope you're well. Let's see how you're doing. It's probably fair to say I'm not doing great. That's not me looking for sympathy. I just like a bit of a prefix to the show, so that if it ends up being atrocious, then at least you know ahead of time. But talking to you is always great and always fills me with joy. Right. Let's get some questions from the chat, because that's what we're going to be doing today. Also, I'm just going to show off my death guard I've been painting up in the... you guys can see that. That's a plague surgeon, apparently. And then this little fella. Oh, you can't see it. I painted green with a green background. I'm an idiot. I should paint ultramarines. But I don't like dry white toast, so I probably wouldn't. Hello, Stufflin. Right. Question. I love the Reanimator so much. Am I mad to have bought 2 more of them? No, because you like them, so that's fine. So what is the question? So one from the Dreadwoods. So with other competitive games like Magic the Gathering and stuff like League of Legends and Fortnite, FIFA, etc., devs and staff are banned from competing. Have you thought about this with the Super Series, especially with the ETC England playtest spiciness? Yeah, the Super Series pack, which is currently being formalized, is it's pretty much written. We're just waiting for some feedback from some people and for it to be turned into like a nice pretty document for everyone, so you'll be able to see in there. But just to let you guys right now know that when a book is released, no team is able to use a book within 4 weeks of that book having been released, or 2 weeks from the FAQ, and it's either or. So like it's a like that has to be the setup. So that doesn't particularly help with things like the production meta of like 7 Archanaut frigates, or knowing about Lumineth Realm Lords like 6 months beforehand. But it does try to deal with that as much as it can. Hey, D Para Hobby, fuck you, buddy. Yeah, fuck you too. Question: are you in Nottingham? Do you see yourself as Robin Hood figure? Who would be King John? Who would be King John and the Sheriff? I see myself as probably Friar Tuck is a better description of me than Robin Hood. Friar Tuck. The King John would be, I don't know. I don't want to make any statements. Honestly, you guys have got me like in a box at this stage. If it's not you guys or Vince, it's someone. I'm currently a communist Tory terrorist, and I don't really want to add any accolades onto that right now, because I've covered the gamut, which is nice. I'm a circle. I'm not sure. Hey, Battle Joe, good morning. Hey, Datcom, I hope you're well. Long time no see. Yeah, I know. Are you good? Are you okay? What's the best way for AOS player to learn 40k? Well, I know that you've already asked me to do a video on that. There is a really, really, really shit-hot video on Play on Tabletop. Play on Tabletop, which is they're a bunch of videographers who like own a production company. So they're like, there's like 5 of them, and they just like hammered out like this like top end production value how to play. It's kind of an interesting one though, because sometimes like the physicality of learning how to play 40k or Age of Sigmar for new people, a lot of it is like you get it in front of them and you're like, look, here's a dice. you need 3 plus. Look, it says 3 plus. You roll the dice, it's 3 plus. I think that's completely that's the way to teach people. The problem is that, or something that I would like to make in the next few months would be kind of your honest way in, and it's like, hey, do you want to take the models? Do you want to build the models you like? Yes. Don't do that. Don't do that. Here are some channels that will tell you which units are viable in the game right now. You should go and check those out and then buy those models. Otherwise, you're wasting your money. So I think that would be good. And there's also like a whole bunch of other stuff like, do I buy the book? Well, yes, but where do you buy it from? Not the app. Do you buy it from a shop? You could do. Should you buy it on iTunes? Great question. Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff like the process of getting into the game, which is slightly more complicated, which could save you probably hundreds of pounds. Like, hello, you've entered the hobby. You bought some stuff, you want to paint it. Well, Games Workshop does do some great paints, and Citadel does do suggestion. But the Cult of Paint have done a starter guide on paintbrushes to buy and paint ranges to pick up. There you go, and you go read that, and you're like, great, those guys are experts at that thing. Instead of just being like, just paint whatever you like. So I think there's a lot more guidance could be given to knowledge sources when you play the game, rather than just how to play the game, which is like fine, like to learn to learn how to play. Just you and your mates, learning is really easy. Doing better than me painting death guards. Sorry again. Will the pack have pretty pictures for the destruction players, Draconda? Yes, it will. You're waiting for the pack to be fully finished before you publish. Tidy. Yeah, I see the criticism. I also actually have also published the pack to people to give me feedback before I also put it public as well. So not only have I waited for something to be finished, I've waited for it to also receive feedback before I finish it and publicly put it out. That way, that's mainly though because the graphic designer terrifies me, and if I ever make him do a job twice, he's like, I want to do a job once, don't make me do a job twice, which is fair. I hate that though, because I have to be a lot more prepared, which is not my skills. You're waiting. Bringing up the fat middle again. There we go. To be fair, Fry took I'm a fat gear. What's the drinking situation during the Super Series? Says Lee Bromley. Currently, we don't know the venue unless I missed it, in which case, just ignore me. The venue, I can actually tell you guys about the venue because I was thinking of doing a little thing on the Honest Wargamer show, on the daily shows, and giving you guys some updates. Obviously, the T-Sports Network stuff is kind of separate from the Honest Wargamer, but it's still just me. Like, I get that, and you guys get that. But we have a venue locked in. It's just down the road. It's a really cool place. You can actually look it up online. It's called Carpe Ludum. I'll type that in the chat. Carpe Ludum. It's run by a guy called Gary. We are subletting the top floor of the building, which is a big space. Me and Nathan is coming over tomorrow. We're going in there. It's a bit of a mess, so we've got a few weeks to knock it into shape, put some green screens up, some curtains, some nice walls, tables, brackets for cameras, all of those other things. So a bit of a terrain project. So I was thinking of keeping you guys updated on the daily show, because I'll be like, either I'll be there in the morning or I'll be there in the afternoon, and I'll run in between them, like fixing it all up. And eventually the Honest Wargamer studio, or at least where I do this bit from, will be relocated into the tech station for the Super Series, which will be just where I do podcasting from in the short term, which is fun. So it's very exciting. Very, very exciting. And also it'll be like a cool Nottingham-based gaming environment for people to come and play games. We're going to set it up so you guys can come and play me during the week. There's loads of really fun stuff that we're able to do with the space, which isn't just the Super Series, but the Super Series obviously is the key focus. So I'm focusing on that at the minute, and then I'll add all the other stuff in later. It's also really cool, the downstairs bit, which Gary is running. He's set up a 3D print farm called the Mini Factorum. So he's got like a bunch of 3D printers, which is awesome, and we're going to help him with like the design of some of his like social media assets and stuff. But it's a really, really cool concept, and I really like it, because if you buy yourself a 3D printer, you can print one thing at home, maybe over the course of X period of time. Lee, I know I haven't answered your question about drinking. It's in a nightclub. So that should answer your question. But the what is the words I'm looking for? Oh yeah, so it's a cool idea. I wonder what you guys think about this. So instead of just printing one thing at home, he has like 8 to 10 printers. He might have like 12 printers. So basically, you would go in and you'd be like, "I've seen this really cool thing online. I want to order it, like terrain or something," and he'll have it done for you in like a day. Like you go in, and you're like, "I want these 40 guys printing, or these like 10 models I've seen." You'll have it in a day, as opposed to you buying a printer, learning how to be a 3D printer, and then do it at home. And I think it's a really exceptional idea. Like, I think it's really clever. Like, so he'll just be able to like take custom orders and other things, and I'm a little bit scared, obviously, that I'll be upstairs and I could just wander down and be like, "Could you print out this sweet ass model I've seen?" But I think it's quite fun. I don't know what you guys think about that. Is it possible to waste money buying models if you like them? It is not. Drinking situation. So yeah, drinking will be fine. Drinking will be fine. Currently, we don't know the venue unless I've missed it. There we go. So that's the venue. So it's top floor. It's quite big. Like, really is quite big. It's also very expensive. But it's a great little venue. The fact that it's attached to a hobby shop, I think, is another exceptional element. And it's going to be really sweet. Really looking forward to showing you guys update pictures on the show. Me and Nathan in some building outfits and stuff, and putting together not only like the Super Series HQ, but also the Honest Wargamer kind of HQ. So we'll be able to like have like mini events, and one of the things we want to work on in the future is doing seminars and other stuff. Obviously, there's so many problems with COVID at the minute that like kind of like leaving those pipes in the fire for later. But it's kind of the natural evolution of the Honest Wargamer anyway. Moving everything over there. Honest Wargamer might also be able to do bat reps from there, which is cool. Because we can't do that from the current studio. So there's loads of options in the future for us that we're going to do. And I couldn't actually have got there without everyone on the Wargamer Patreon and everyone supporting us this far. So we wouldn't even be able to ever, we're putting all our money on the line, but wouldn't be able to do it without you. So big shout out to you guys. You guys have made this happen, which is fun. So if you're ever around Nottingham or the area, you can come and check us out. Come play some games and hang out, which would be pretty sweet. Hermanista, thanks for subscribing. I think I saw some other subscribing as well. Someone's asked, I know it was Joe Cryer asked, I hope you're well, Joe, by the way, how can you get involved with the Super Series? If you just sign up on the website, all that information is being taken there, and then I'm going to contact people when we start dealing with partnerships around the world. Oman having a gaming space within an hour's drive that actually play iOS, yeah. So the Honest Wargamer Clubhouse, I guess I can also kind of announce that that'll be a thing as well. So Nikos, I'm hoping me, Nikos, Tom, Nathan, a whole bunch of us will be there fairly regularly, so you can organise games with us and play. So it's going to be a fun time. Parking there's no parking at the venue, it's city centre. So, but there is lots of pay and display parking around, or you can always park out of town and commute in, because there's the trams, which is a pretty cheap way of getting in and out of the city centre. It's quite useful. And again, it's not very far. It's maybe a 2-minute walk, maybe, from the tram stop. Maybe not even that. It's all downhill. Printed pile of Emperor's Children corpses for my mate's iron hands. Good, that works. I'll definitely come and hang and play some games. Good. Work dribbling back in, says DeBolt, so Patreon's back up. Thanks, DeBolt. I really appreciate that. Thanks for keeping me sane over the past few months. Doesn't go unappreciated. No, you guys have done as much for me as I've done for you. Talking to you guys has been really fun. Even today, when I haven't prepped anything, there's no great guests. Tomorrow is a great show, by the way. Darren and Sam Morgan on the same show talking AOS lists. That's tomorrow's show. So if anything, I'm not even the cream filling in that jam sandwich. I'm just, you wouldn't put cream in a jam sandwich, obviously. But you know what I mean. I'll be there every day, says Chris. Good. Yeah, I used to live in Beeson. I know a few spots. All right, sweet. I have to admit, I am torn on the ethics on 3D prints, says Draconda. While there are many royalty-free to print 3D models out there, isn't this case for all 3D models out there? What do you think? Well, actually, I think the really, really good element of the 3D printing market, because I've been thinking about this a lot recently. Um, I've been thinking about this loads. Is doing. I'm not a particularly good sculptor, so head swaps. So I've currently got all like my Death Guard, and all the heads are like kind of like plugged in with cables and stuff, if you guys can see. So I wouldn't really do that, but I know my good friend Joe Pagano, he's just done a bunch of blood crushers, but he had some 3D printed like lions heads made, like a pack of 10, and then he stuck those on the front instead. And I think things like that are worth their weight in like gold. Like, what about objective markers? Like, not like the big 6-inch templates that we use for the Wargamer, but like, just a little token here or there, or like, but they've all got I don't know, they've got like Daughters of Cain symbols on, or well, you can't actually do the Daughters of Cain symbols because that's infringing copyright, but something, you know what I mean? Like maybe your club logos on there, yeah, or your gaming team's logo on there. Anything like that. And then there's a whole bunch of... See, the thing about... It's a bit of... I'm going to quote Bill and Ted, which, FYI, is pretty much one of the ways that I've always thought about life. If you guys haven't seen Bill and Ted, there's a scene at the beginning where he's like... where they're playing as wild stallions, and they're like, oh, dude, we need a kick-ass music video. And it's like, before we do that, we need to learn how to play. It's like, before we do that, we need to get Eddie Van Halen... And it's like, before we can get Eddie Van Halen, we need a kick-ass music video. So it's a bit cyclical, right? It's chicken and egg, but it's a more complicated way of explaining it. Well, the thing is, with the rise of 3D printers and everyone being able to 3D print, you now have a market for people who are good at 3D design to set themselves up on Patreon, for example, because I know that there are a few of these who exist. And you can pay to be a Patreon tier where you can print their stuff. There's quite a few like Patreons out there where people have like got that set up. So basically, you're a 3D artist, and then people effectively rent the right to print and sell your designs, which is a really excellent way of kind of like getting a whole bunch of stuff through the market, as opposed to when on a lot of the Kickstarters you get now, there's like a guy, he's like a business guy, he gets a bunch of 3D designs, he markets it, makes it look really sweet, makes sure it goes to a printer, and gets packaged and then gets delivered to you. That's the kind of process. Classic. In this situation, it's a little bit more straight to the source. So I can go into like a 3D print shop, which I do genuinely think things like that might exist in the future, or obviously be able to order online. But there'll be like the availability of this unit here, or this set of 3D models here, and then you have them printed, sent to you, really easy. And the guy who's the printer is either stuff he's bought that he's allowed to sell, or files he's rented isn't allowed to sell. So I think that there's a real economy occurring now with 3D printing, which we're in the next like 2 to 3 years is going to explode. And obviously the quality needs to come up a little bit. In some cases, the quality can still be a bit. But I've also seen some incredibly detailed stuff. So. I have some experience with 3D printers. Sorry, again, he does. It's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of files available. Have you started drawing your trouser snake riding love in Skaven yet? No, I have not, but I do intend to, so don't worry. Titanforge is a great Patreon for D&D type models. So there you go. They do. That's an example of one. So you can go and search for Titanforge. So for the price of like a new 40k army or a new Age of Sigmar army, you could buy yourself a 3D printer for like 200-300 quid. Learn how to use it and print stuff out slowly. I think the idea of having a print farm is a really smart idea because, Mr. Bluesky, thanks for subscribing. I think the idea of having a print farm is really, really good because someone can print everything very quickly for you. So like if there's some terrain that you've seen and you want it printed for your upcoming Super Series tournament, and the STL files can just be bought, given to the print farm, they can be printed, and you can get them ready for your tables. Super useful. So I do think it's the future. I really do. The Star Wars Legion designers kind of lead the way on it, really, for 3D Patrons. Some of the models are stunning. Yes, Hermanista. They also do that as well on Star Wars Legion, right? Hey, Ben Clapperton, by the way. Thanks for being here. For anyone interested in printing, search for marker spaces near you. Great intro. My city library has one. Okay, there you go. Games Workshop first 3D prints their own models for the artist to paint. Yes, they do. They do Games Workshop. If you aren't sure, so what they do is they just 3D print because they work in CAD or ZBrush or something like that. But they design the model and then they 3D print it. And then the heavy metal guys start working on it to paint it, to put it out, to get feedback on it, and to see how it looks. So that's the kind of process. And then eventually, like, effectively all they do is they just cut it up in post. So, like, they design it, and then they just cut it up into pieces and then work out how to best put it onto a sprue. That's their process. The sweet thing about 3D print as well is you don't have to build it. I really like building models. I'm just going to put that out there. I really like building models. I think that there's something really fun about it. I think you take in the detail a bit more. A bit like when you paint, you really take in the detail of what's on the model, and they come alive a lot more when you paint them and when you build them than just having them built and given to you. But I still think that, also the 3D printing stuff is probably always going to be cheaper. And again, not talking about infringing on copyright, talking about other people taking some ideas, whatever that might be, and running with them. I mean, like, it's pretty hard to copyright infringe on Sylvaneth, which are basically they're just Ents and wood tree men, as an example. And again, I'm talking around the issue. I don't know enough to actually say this, but, like, I bet that there's a whole bunch of, like, tree monsters or, like, something similar, or, like, spirits of the forest, which, like, people could design. And I know for a fact that I would like to see and build and paint. Like, and a bit like, I don't know, Chaos Cultists. Chaos Cultists are, like, really hard. Like, and Guardsmen. Those are really hard to, like, copyright anyway, which is why they don't try to do it, I think, is because you're basically just talking about space future human and evil space future human. Like, like, how could you really copyright those, I think. So that's why things like Severina Rain box art looks so much better than the Finecast model. They didn't paint the retail model. Yes. You still have to build them. Part of my job involves receiving 3D sculpt from the sculptor and working them with the factory on making it moldable, says Ben Capitan. There you go. That's awesome, Ben. That's such a fun job. I love painting a lot, says Hook and Pin. Good. I mean, I do some days. Building models is the best bit, especially when you start messing around with the models to make them look more unique. I think that's the other point about 3D printing, right? Like, so Games Workshop have done, like, 3 sets or something of Stormcast shoulder pads or shields. But you could just print off, like, if you just wanted insert random shield design. Like, there's some guy who can just make a basic shield design and then just basically add on in the 3D program, like, a lion's head, a V, like some eyes, whatever it is that takes you. Your club. You could have your club logo printed on shields, and then instead of the Liberator shields, not that you would take Liberators, but you would put them on instead, and then you've got some kick-ass, like, and it's like, yeah, you've bought your Stormcast models, let's say, but then you could upgrade them for, like, let's say a pack of those costs 10 quid. I think there's a guy called maybe Pop Goes the Monkey. He makes a bunch of, like, 3D printed stuff. And I think I've looked at them before, and it's like packs of 10 are normally like a tenner to like 15 quid in GBP, in English pounds. And that's actually, like, such a cool way of, like, changing the shape. You guys must have seen the different kind of, like, additional elements that people have printed for Imperial Knights. So, like, big storm, wolf, storm shield, like a wolf head and all those other bits. So instead of you having to sculpt it, and some of you guys might want to learn how to sculpt and do it, so that process is still there and it's still available for you to do the thing that you enjoy that's fun. But for people like me, I don't really want to learn how to be a sculptor. I think it's super cool, but there's other things I'd like to do in my time. But I would like a wolf head, let's say, put it on an Imperial Knight and make it look like a Space Wolf dude. That's great. And if I'm spending 80 quid on an Imperial Knight or whatever it is, and I want to add £5 to stick that on the front, that's great. You could do a Princess Monoko army. Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of point, right? I was talking to a friend today about the Sons of Behemoth release. I'm a huge fan of Um, dun, 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 what is it called? Oh god, it's an anime and it's not called Sword Art Online. It's called Attack on Titan. There we go. So Attack on Titan, which if you haven't seen is an anime, and I suggest you do watch because it is awesome, awesome. But effectively, there are some giants in that. And they've got these like big grins. They look super weird, but they always have these kind of like, well, they don't always, but there are these kind of like, there's a muscular version, the Colossal Titan, and it's all like ripped. It's like all the skin was taken away, and it's just all the muscle. And if someone just did Attack on, I mean, again, you'd be infringing on Attack on Titan IP. But if there was some sort of way of collaborating that giant that I have in my head and using those as gargants in Age of Sigmar, I'd be all over that. That would be sweet AF. So yeah, it'll be fun. So I work as a colleague. A work colleague is just getting into 40k, super keen, but bought a lot of secondhand stuff from eBay. Last night he asked for feedback on some we bought and overpaid on. That was a tough conversation when he thought he hit the mother load in mini marines. Oh, so he bought all the mini marines. That's sad. That's sad. I think like that's what I was saying, Hermanist. I think I can do an honest guide. I might try and do that next week. I've got a lot on because I've got to be a labourer for best part of 2 weeks. But that could be a real good thing. With wargaming on the rise, do you think there will be more of a market for commission painters? Thinking about if that could be a route for making a living or just a side business. I think commission painting is really hard, and I'd not be the person to give best advice. There are some great people who do commission painting for a living, and you can ask those guys. I think it's really hard. I think what really shocks people is when they first ask a commission painter how much it will cost to get an army painted, and then they say this much, and you think, what the hell? Like, it sounds like so much money. It's like you're just painting. But if you think about how many hours you spend painting, it takes a lot longer to paint stuff than we maybe give it credit for in some situations, especially to a good standard that you would do it for a professional living. So I think there's a market for it, and I think it's something viable for people to do as work. But also, I think it's hard work. And I also think you'll be sometimes surprised by the feedback. I think, though, if you set yourself up like someone like Benjamin has, like Studio Earthwood, or Nick Lambourne, or any of those guys, and you could talk to Alex Jones, who's been on the show before. He's done commission painting. He found it really, really hard. So there's loads of I think maybe start it out as a hobby or like a side project, see how you feel about it, and then take the plunge would be the right way. But I'm not a careers advisor, so I hate giving that sort of advice. Copyright would protect anything which was original about the look of Sylvan. I think Games Workshop would have to prove that in court. Yeah, Ben Clapperton. And I don't think they can prove Tree Monsters as their IP. Pop Goes the Monkey does all sorts of marine bits, shoulder pads, icons, helmets, bits for the dreadnoughts, etc. that all 3D printed, creatively named enough to be legal, says Scott B. Yeah, I know. And that's what I'm saying. I think that there's a huge range in like other sculpts or editions. Thanks, Draconda. I'm glad you got it from the music. Attack on Titan is great. I also recommend Food Wars. Okay. Attack on Titan is one of those animes that comes along every once in a while and reminds you that anime isn't all dog shit. It's really good. Love to see Kolos-style mini-range from the Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn series. Yes. There's a whole bunch of like fantasy books which I would like to see made into minis. Wheel of Time, the Rift War Saga, if you guys are aware of that at all, which is by Raymond E. Feist. There's like a whole the Sword of Truth. Do I want the Sword of Truth? No, he went a bit weird at the end, so probably not the Sword of Truth. But that would be fun. I think there's a whole bunch of stuff that I would like to see turned into minis, and also count as at tournaments. I guess we talked about painting new stuff the other day, and painting at tournaments, and we talk about proxy models a lot. But we're okay with conversions. Now, I'm not saying use a marine as a dreadnought. I'm not saying that at all. Yeah. And I get that a dreadnought is a half cadavered space marine inside an armored shell that's both stasis suit and battle tank at the same time. I get that that's what that is. But I think that that could be designed in a variety of ways. Like, in all sorts of ways. And I like that there's the option for a 3D designer out there to do something like that. yeah, and like come up with their version of it, and then I like that version, and I want to use that in my game because it's a creative hobby. Now, normally you would do that through conversion, yeah, but this one, someone's saving you a job, and I don't know how, but I'm sure someone will tell me how. I don't see how having someone design something that more fits how I want to represent that piece of IP is different to converting and is not as usable in a game. You know, I think, yeah, that's what I think. I would like to know what you guys think, though. Hours taken times minimum plus material cost should be the minimum expectation commission paying quote. Plus minimum wage. Yes, agreed. There is also the time investing years of learning that artists need to get to that skill level, says Draconda. Good point. That is something people are paying for as well. That's also like when you quote. So if like you message someone, you're like, hey, I'd like in some industries you just have to pay to get a quote on something, right? Be like, hey, I'd like the new Indomitus Marines, the new tank ×3, a bunch of other stuff. Like, there's my list of things I want painting. What would it cost? And then the guy has to use his skill. He's like, I know what got built. I know how long that takes. I'm going to maybe spray it first. I'm going to pick out the detail, whatever it is. I know how long it takes because I've done it several times, so I can give you a better idea of time frame and quote, so I understand my time better. I'm going to quote you this volume of time, getting paid this much money per hour for this volume of time. So there's a lot in that. I might just get a commission painter on and ask them all about it because that's a really good question. There's a whole bunch of people I could ask. I could ask Oscar or Benjamin or some other people. A Pacific Rim themed night army would be amazing. Yes, it would. And Book 4 is coming out in November. Huge hype. For what? For the Sanderson books, I think. Has anyone Has anyone found out the truth about Nathan Prescott? Does he exist? Joe, is that you? He apparently exists. I apparently am meeting him tomorrow, but I'm not certain that's true. I also have found out, I've asked him every day where he is. Yesterday he was in Birmingham, apparently, and the day before was in Birmingham. He lives in Leicester, so I'm not sure where he currently is today. If anyone has seen Nathan Prescott, I would enjoy a picture being sent to me. I can't get over the fact that non-Games Workshop models aren't allowed at Warhammer World events, so I always stick to Games Workshop models. I can't get over the fact that non-Games Workshop models... Oh, I get your point. Owen, I think that's a really good point, and I would like to ask everyone from an international setting this question. So I live in Nottingham. My local tournament station is Warhammer World. So I've rarely got into alternate models or different models for gaming because I would want to play at Warhammer World, which is where even I play like my practice games quite often when COVID wasn't a thing. Now that's not the case, and now we're going to have the Honest Wargamer like gaming centre. It's not really a gaming centre, but whatever. We've got some tables. People can play, and that's fun. And when I go to tournaments, I probably would want to go to all the independent tournaments that I love, and not probably Warhammer World. It means that like I've been really thinking through stuff. I really want a Bellicor model, for example. Really want a Bellicor model, but the old Bellicor model is pretty rubbish. It's quite old, and there's a really, really good Bellicor model or a Demon Prince model from Creature Caster, which in the far future, whenever I get any money again, would be the thing that I'm going to buy. Yeah, so that Creature Caster Demon Prince, and it looks awesome, and that would be my Bellicor, and it looks great. Yeah, and I'm like, sweet AF. Like, I want to do some also Demon Princes for my Death Guard, but the Demon Princes, again, Demon Princes are terrible models, and there are some amazing Demon Prince models out there in the world, and I would like to get them, and I think I'm no longer going to be held back by the fact that I'm going to have to go to Warhammer World. Now, my question is, to you guys anywhere else in the world, if you're in America, let's say, why the fuck would you buy ×3 of the plastic Games Workshop Demon Prince? It looks awful. Like, go and find some like great sculpts and use those. Who's going to be bothered? Like I don't understand what setting. Oh, well, didn't ITC say that you had to have Games Workshop models if you're going to be streamed or win the event? They're kind of like soft capitulation to Games Workshop. I don't know. I think independent events don't really stipulate that here. I don't think so. Timmy2, thanks for subscribing. Tim22. Thanks, Tim. I think I've said that right. So I'd like to know what you guys think about that, because I haven't actually brought that up before. He's not in my house, converting my garage. He's not. That's true. My buddy uses 3D printer to print Primaris Marines to use in our friendly games. He's offered to print me some stuff before, but I'm scared that I won't be able to use them in tournaments. I don't think that's okay, Creator. Like, because it's basically stealing. Like, as much as it's awesome that we can all do it and we can all nod and wink at each other, I think the difference between actually stealing, and I'm not trying to upset you or offend you, like, so please don't take it that way, but like 3D printing someone else's IP and not paying them for it is not okay. I'm talking about using other things, which is what I think 3D printing can be used for. And I also don't know why there would be a hard limit on what we use at tournaments. Which creature caster model, says Dave Fraser? It's I'll go find it, Dave. I'll go find it so I can show you guys. Creature caster. I don't think they're Polish, maybe? I think they never have. They never, ever, ever, ever have anything in stock. LVO was Games Workshop compliance for top table. Yeah, not about that. Why would you buy mere salamanders when you could buy the beautiful Games Workshop ones? Yes, correct. That's the one at the minute, isn't it? It's like Marauders. We were all talking about Marauders, and Marauders are obviously terrible. Terrible. Marauders are terrible. But, you know, people just keep buying them. And it's just like who is going to be, like, but Games Workshop makes some great alternate Marauders. They make Iron Golems and Splintered Fang and all those other, like, alternate kind of, like, Chaos Sculpts. And why aren't we using those as Marauders? Because they just look boss AF. If someone's like, oh, they need to all have in their hand individually an axe and a shield. And I'm like, shut up. It's a game of magic and imagination. This guy can have a spear. This guy can have a thing. He doesn't have to have an axe. Like, it could just be a spear. It's fine. Anyway, that's my moment. Apparently, I'm more bothered about that than I thought. Let's find this Demon Prince model very quickly. I mean, that one's awesome. I don't even think that's the one I was talking about, but that guy's great. A demon. Creature Caster is Canadian. Shut up. Are they? I just fall in love with Canada more and more every day. I don't know about you guys. I keep just having Canadians on the show and just generally being in love with them. There it is. The Lord of Malice. So I'm going to put this link in the chat for you guys to see. So it's called The Lord of Malice on Creature Caster. And it just tell me that's not a boss demon prince. Now, okay, so I've sent you that. Now I'm just going to go quickly find the Games Workshop Demon Prince. Demon Prince. I've spent demon wrong because they do it with an A, don't they? But that's fine. Okay. It's just not the same. It's just not the same. It's disgusting. It's just not the same. If you live in a bubble, you are uniquely lucky, says Datcom. But I have so many armies, I keep some as Games Workshop only so I can use them Warhammer World. Then I have other armies with all third-party characters, and I go crazy. I think that's where I'm at, Datcom. That's where I'm at. Like, if I'm at Warhammer World, I'll have like a Warhammer Games Workshop compliant army, but it's my hobby. Like, I said this already on the show before. There's no way I'm buying a box of miniatures that are the same as another box of miniatures like 40 times anymore. Not 40. But even if you got to do it 9 times. Looking at Witch Elves. If you wanted 90 Witch Elves, for instance, it's just the same box 9 times. It's just like, no, I'm going to do 30 from Games Workshop and 30 from somewhere else. You know, or like something else, you know, and some of that might be kit bashing, but it's just like allow your imagination. We talk about this a lot all the time. It's quite interesting, actually. The kind of the emotional like reaction that we sometimes have about having to use the models that they're meant to be, like. And yet it being a creative hobby. Like, we're, like, obsessed with, like, not obsessed, but we like to talk about the narrative a lot, and I know I do. Like, so we talk about the narrative. So Witch Elves are Witch Elves. They're ladies who are, like, they're trying to bring Cain back to life. That's what they are. But that doesn't mean you can't just have, like, a bunch of, like fully armoured Witch Elves. like just like full plate metal from some other third-party company, and it's just like they've got the same stat line, and they make more sense because they're covered in armor and they never die. Now I'm like, okay, that makes sense, but I've just got like 30 women who like have got like maybe some Khainite symbols on it, but they're just like, in close combat weapons. There's no reason I can't add that into my army and they also be Daughters of Cain. It's a world of imagination. I keep looking at this ugly demon prince. I'm just going to ignore that. So sorry. There we go. Stick Nathan in the back of this. Is it a van? I'd love to add. I'd love to add custom 3D party bits Games Workshop stuff. But I'm worried it means I can't use it at Games Workshop stores either. Before I moved to Knots, I used to use all manner of different models from loads of companies in the same boat as you with Warhammer World, says Dudo Shotgate. I didn't know you were in Knots, that's cool. Castle Grayskull draws a long shadow even all the way down here in Australia, says Borningham Manchild. I suppose I am too much of a bootlicker, but I try and stick to official Games Workshop because I see misguidedly at Warhammer World being a bit of a mecca for the hobby. Yeah, I don't think that makes you a bootlicker. Like, that's not what I'm trying to say. Like, and also it's easy. Like, you might just be like, I want to run 80 Marauders. I'm just going to buy that pack of Marauders 8 times. Like, fuck yeah. It's easy. It's a one click that you do on a shop somewhere, wherever it might be. You get them in. You know how to build them. You don't have to be overly creative. Like, you've already been pretty creative. You're playing a creative game. You don't have to worry. I'm not putting a fence on it. You just do what you want to do. I'm just saying that there's also scope to do that, I think. I know why Games Workshop keep other companies' minis away from their own premises, and whilst it doesn't affect me completely, I get. Oh yeah, I wouldn't think using another company's models at Games Workshop HQ would be okay, nor at their stores. They're their stores, but independent gaming stores or areas where you don't play at the local Games Workshop, but you play at your local gaming store, I would expect the creativity of the armies to be like higher. I'd say. Saying that, I once played a friendly game at Warhammer World with a whole Mantic Skeleton Warrior spray black and managed to fly under the radar. Canadian infiltrating everything. Yes, they are. I heard rumours that Nathan is going to star in the new Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego TV show. Can you move to Canada? And then I go to Canada and snuggle. Yeah, that'd be sweet. You may be creative within the Games Workshop defined parameters. Well, Nick's a good example. Like, Nick is a good example of someone who I really respect in the hobby. We're talking about Nikos in the chat, who does the 40k show, and will be doing it with me later. Like, and I'm not blowing smoke up his ass. Not only is he a great human being, he genuinely is like a smart motherfucker as well. And I'm going to also say this, and I say it with love, clever, but maybe it's because he's... no, I'm not going to say it like that way. How am I going to say it? Nick is really good at making sure that he has got the most money for his bang for his buck, is what I'm going to say, right? So, like, Nick's got, like, an amazing range of Primaris guys, which he has, like, painted this kind of, like, really good, like, brushed copper and red. And then the other day, he was using those as Noise Marines, but it worked. He's like, I'm going to put, like, he's going to slot, like, a thing on the front, which is going to like make it into like more of like a Noise Marine style gun. I didn't care at all. I was like, they look chaosy. That looks fine. That works. But similarly, it's kind of clever actually. He's painted them kind of chaosy looking, kind of bronzy red, I think. But then when he uses them as Primaris, they're clearly Primaris Marines. Like, and it didn't affect my immersion at all. I wasn't bothered. I was like, it looked great. It looked better than my stuff, which is Orcs, which look shit. Oh, is it Orcs? Mechanicus, which was fine. And my point is that Nick's been really clever about how he like builds his armies from the ground up, so that he's got like the most options. You know, I've talked about this on the show before. Like, if you want a good army that's gonna like survive like financially, do not pick up Marines. Like, especially at the minute. Like, look what happened. Like, I've got the Marines from the last box set. Okay, Phobos Marines. Okay, not those guys. I've got the new tank. Okay, I've got the other new tank. Okay, I've got the other new tank coming. It's just like, which one? But my point is Nick's really clever with how he like builds his stuff, and he's got like He's got like one model that's like a Demon Prince, clearly, but it also could just be like a jump pack guy because it's like a Demon Prince, but it could also be a jump pack guy with like lightning claws, and it's just clever, I think, and it's really effective, and it also saves on his time building, painting. Actually, probably not save time on his painting, building, because it takes him longer. But yeah, make your armies be like water, become the glass, be the spoon, or realize that it's not that that you can bend the spoon. It's that there is no spoon at all. That's the answer. 40k show later balance in the games which allow you to make your own 3D printed stuff, but no third party parts. That's a shame. High tie winning. Demon Prince jump pack guy sounds like cheating. It's perfect. I suspect because games stores can't sell Forge, or they don't want people to buy it over the product in their shop. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. Anyway, that wasn't expecting what I was saying. I wasn't expecting this to come out of this conversation, but an interesting conversation nonetheless about this, because I do think this is the future, the 3D printing stuff. I do think it's going to have more of an effect on the hobby in the next 4 to 5 years, and you're also going to come up against those experiences like I was saying earlier, where you're going to play against someone, and he's going to have 3D printed his Primaris Marines, and you're going to have to ask yourself how you feel about that. A conversation you're going to have to ask, and maybe you can't tell, maybe you don't know, and what feelings are you going to have? You're going to feel like, well, I've paid over the odds, that's not fair. You haven't paid your way into the hobby. It seems an interesting kind of conversation. It's a hobby after all. It's an elite hobby that's very expensive, and you can fall in love with the narrative as much as you like, but it's still going to cost you a couple of £100 at least to get into the game, and that couple of £100 might not be viable forever as well. And by viable, I mean it might not be a competitive build of an army forever. So it is a cycle, and it is like a continual kind of like drip feeding of money into the hobby, which keeps the company alive, which is great, and the community alive, which is also great. But it's a question you're going to have to all ask ourselves at some point, which is going to be an interesting time. The future is now, old man, says Tywin. Will we still do the bonus show tomorrow? Yes, Owen. Yes, we are. 100%. But they paid for the ability to print them, says Geffingus. Talking about the printer, I think, maybe. Or maybe even the designs. Nikos is saying, I've been in that battle for 20 plus years, and Games Workshop want my money. I adapt and overcome and keep as much of it as possible. That's clever. That might actually be what we could do on... Yeah, I'm going to talk with Nick about that later. So the former team, Games Workshop... apparently it's disconnected. Damn it. Damn you. I'm just going to keep talking for a moment, podcast guys, because the Twitch chat is broke, or it turns out I hadn't fixed the internet, which is an interesting one. Not that I'm sure at this point you guys are sick of hearing this on the podcast, and I apologise. Also to the YouTube guys as well, who get this uploaded and they just watch it back. You guys are also great as well. Hope you're doing well. I'm not sure what you're doing while you're listening to the podcast, but just know that you cared for and appreciated. So thanks for doing so and being a part of the team. I'm just going to... I suppose I could keep making my points, but it's always difficult to do those, or make some points, or try to talk about some things when it feels like you're now just the only person in a room. There's that Kirioth guy. Have you watched Kirioth? He's a guy that does YouTube videos, and I watch his videos sometimes. And he just stands in front of a microphone and talks. It blows me away. He just like stands there and he's just like, I'm going to talk for 15 minutes without ever looking at the chat. But then I started making videos. The first time I ever made a video was making a video for Games Workshop. So I need the chat there. They're my like emotional support blanket, or like my bullies. It's not. It's either one. Do we all have Space Marine fatigue now? Oh, a question about Kirioth. Kirios did a video about it yesterday, and all the comments agreed with the fatigue. Interesting question. I think the interesting thing about Marines is uh, currently for 40k is that they haven't given us enough of the story. I guess is what I'm trying to put it in. The comparison between Marines in the Heresy and Marines in 40k is a really, really interesting one because, and I know I've said interesting like 8 times there, so I apologise. When you're, as a Horus Heresy player, when I was into the Horus Heresy, what would happen is you'd be waiting for like the new Blood Angels or the new thing to come out in the Black Books, which would also be your models, because you'd have read ahead on all of the story. Yeah, and you're like, that's awesome, I can't wait to see that, or this bit's great, I want to see that. And so you'll have read a lot of the story, and then you can't wait for the models. Whereas in this situation, it's different, where we get the models before we get the story, and I think that they are missing a huge trick. A good example would be the video for Genestealer Cults. If you guys saw the video for Genestealer Cults, not this time around, but last time, where there was like an interactive, well, not an interactive, but there was a story. There was a trailer. You know, it was like a cinematic trailer. But that's where I would take their story forge or their storytelling element and their video editors and their graphic designers. That's where I would put the money. Is I would be making these like stories ahead of time before I showed you the model. You know, I'd be like giving you the context for these new Marines. You know, like you'd maybe have some old Marines and they'd get some upgrades, or they'd find this stuff, or Core would bring it down, and maybe they'd be in the training room, and you'd see all this, and you'd be like, I'm so hyped for that now. Like I'm invested before I see the model, and I understand their place in the setting. And I think that's the problem. We just get a new tank. It's like, here's a new tank. It's like, cool, I could add it to my army, but what's the setting? I think I'm more and more convinced, or I seem to have convinced myself more and more over the past few weeks even, that the setting is so much, like, is so important for the game. Like, which is why, like, a good comparison to that being correct, or comparison to that being correct is a terrible sentence. A good indication that that is correct is if you look at the comparison between lore videos and Tactica videos online. Even the most successful battle reports have at most like 100,000 views, and those are like the most. There's a couple of standout ones that actually top over that. Big shout out to Midwinter Minis. But the most consumed and the most watched videos are lore videos all the time. Lore videos are the one. Like everyone watches lore videos, not everyone, but they're like their numbers are huge. Like easily like 50 to 100,000 on most videos, with like 250,000 not being too difficult. With some lore videos being like 1 million views. It's because the setting's really important. Because the tank is just a tank. It's just a tank, but its setting is so important, and I think that that's what Games Workshop missed as a trick. And what I think that they should do more of is for new Marines is pictures the setting, whereas Marines in the Horus Heresy, you're not sick of Marines because it's the setting. I'd like new AdMech stuff a lot, but they are completely out of context. Suddenly Wild Westlands and bird planes are a thing. Yes, I could talk about that for days. The new the 40k version of AdMech is just atrocious. Ignoring maybe the Cerberus Hounds, I think those guys are baller, and the Skitarii are amazing. But everything else is just like, just what are you doing? People who are still into recent Marines are the Porsche fans of Wargaming. It's the same shit again. No, see, they've changed the slope of the rear hindquarter 8 degrees, and it's got 15 more HP under the bonnet. Totally different. The 9th cinematic trailer is close to 2 million views now. Okay, I mean that's good. But what's interesting about that is that doesn't in any way that sells the IP. It doesn't sell the game. We have to understand the games or gamers, us as gamers, are more on the raggedy end sometimes. I love the steampunk cowboy AdMech, says Pete. Come on, Pete. the Forge World stuff. See, the thing about the AdMech is, if I can just talk about one of my favorite factions for a moment, is that they are like Space Marines, chapters, not legions. Pretty much like as probably that's not the best example. Best example probably is just like guardsmen. You like guardsmen from this world are different because they wear these hats, and guardsmen from this world are different because they didn't have the supplies for lasguns, so they've all got swords and explodey sticks, whatever it might be. But AdMech are from loads of different Forge worlds anyway, so the customization and like how you mix and match them is really fun. But they obviously have some base templates. But they're a priesthood who worship machines. That's what they are. That's the inherent part that's really important. Like Mars was needed by the Emperor so much that it's the only place that when the Emperor was crusading, he didn't crush for having a religion. Like the Emperor crushed everyone who had a religion. He's like, you will be, like, you will not but have any gods right now. Crush. You believe in gods? Crush. His own child, Lorgar, his own, like, legion, he sent another legion to destroy their home planet and, like, crush them. But Mars was so important and so integral that their praising of a machine god, which they attributed to being the Emperor, was allowed to happen. And that priestliness, or kind of like monastic setting, I feel is really, really lost in all of the new AdMech. It just doesn't carry over. It's not like it just doesn't really work for me. Whereas like things like the Myrmidons, or like the Trioris Armor Conveyor stuff, they've got this kind of like they've got. I feel they have that design aesthetic involved in them. They that's my pitch, Pete. That's my pitch. It's not that they're bad. It's not that the new designs are bad. They are great designs because Games Workshop make great designs. They're really cool models. I just feel that they don't fit with the IP as I read it. But obviously, who the fuck am I? So, I just watched the Night trailer again. I wanted to know what sound Gauss guns make. What do they make? You have a god, but your guns are totally cool, so you guys get to live. Yeah. Pause one out for my boy Lorgar, yeah. AdMech only followed Emperor because we had at least Windows 10 USB stick, recovery stick. It's been 10,000 years since 30k. Things change, and that's true. I mean, you have completely different Marines, so why would it not change? Apart from the setting, and again, the setting for the AdMech is that they generally don't look at, again, if you want to read a really good AdMech book, and you can read it pretty much as a standalone, you can read Mechanicum from the Horus Heresy, which is a fucking great book. I might actually just get that in an audiobook and re-listen to it. But the fun bit about that, and that's a Heresy book, is the split between the Dark Mechanicum and the Mechanicum. And the Dark Mechanicum were pretty much about progression and innovation, and the Mechanicus, or Mechanicum, I forget the words, which is the right one, they were about like staying still and just like praising the machines and their spirits, as opposed to like really redeveloping the lost technology of or developing dark technology. Obviously, the Dark Mechanicum did. So I feel like the argument that they move on is not counterproductive, but like a counterpoint to the fact that I feel like their society was set up to not really move on, I think. But there probably is examples of them actually moving on. So again, Mechanicum is one of the best 30k novels. I agree. It's heresy for AdMech to change STCs, hence why Call is hated. There you go. Rob, you should do a law show, but to get the real views and likes, you've got to be semi-racist about it. Yeah, it's true. There's some really good... Lutin09's a really good law guy. I don't know. I don't really want to... I like doing this for you guys. This is super fun. I can't wait to talk to Nick later. I can't wait to talk to Adam... Sam, and Darren tomorrow. Like, some really fun... Just talking to you guys is really great, and being able to do these videos is really worthwhile. But I'm very, very, very excited about the Super Series. It's why I've said many times before I don't do bat reps. Like, I don't want to do bat reps. I want to have people play. I won't be able to bring the level of skill to a game of Warhammer that someone who's invested like a year of their lives in playing one army to play against another army at a top table. But I can invest loads of time in covering that as well as possible and showing that to you guys. Because I think that that's the very best version. I know we've got a long way to go to make live stream games as good as a bat rep, or like for like some of the quality and stuff. But I think that we can get there. And then at that point, all we do is we plug the players in. We just be like, you're good at your army. You're plugged in. And then all we got to do is, because then it levels up. Once we can get that good, that's what the Super Series is meant to be about. Once we get that good, we get that level up of like showcasing. Then people just come in and play their armies really well. And we've leveled it up again. Because, you could be the most competent bet rapper in the world, but you can't know 23 armies really well, or whatever the fuck it is for a game system. It's just too hard. And then it's only a build maybe, or whatever. Our Skinny Series, Skinny Boots, Super Series, you can go find that on tsportsnetwork.com/Super Series, so tsportsnetwork.com. A Super Series is a team tournament in a single elimination bracket run between teams that you'll see over the course of weeks. And it's just Team Warhammer with match play, initially Age of Sigmar, but we will be doing a 40k one sometime soon. That's what it is. Tabletop Times are doing a great job of live streaming bat reps. I agree. They are doing a really good version. It's a great format. It really is. But I still don't think, and I mean this in all kindness, I still don't think it's the same as a match play game at a tournament. But they do a really good job of what they do. And I'm not talking about being better. I'm just talking about being different. And I think that's really important. So I heard Brandon Grant say on a podcast that to learn and appreciate 40k as a competitive game, you should watch tournament coverage, not bat reps. I can't wait for Super Series coverage. Oh, thanks, Pete. I'm looking forward to that too. And also big shout out to that Brandon guy. Woodway, didn't realise the audiobooks are so expensive. So good tip if you want to get into the audiobook, as a final thing I'll say before I head out. If you want to get into the audiobooks, then you should get Audible. I know you're giving money to Bezos at this point, but everyone does. So what does it matter? And if you get Audible, you can pay for a credit and every month, and then you can use that credit to buy the books. So I think the books are like £23 or £27 or something dumb on Audible, or if you get it from the Black Library website. All those is obviously a shitty version of doing it. Just pay your money to the man. Get it done, get Audible, and then do it that way. It's unfortunate that you've got to go down that route. And if you are so anti-capitalist that you're not bothered, I'm sure there are other ways. There are other ways to attack that problem. Right. It's been a pleasure. Has anyone got any questions before I go? You can join me and Nick again tonight, where we might cover the conversation about getting armies ready, which I think is a really valuable one. And Nick has got a particular insight into that later. Yeah, it's been real fun. Tomorrow's Age of Sigmar show should be spectacular. Sam and Darren on the show, two excited, intelligent human beings talking about Age of Sigmar and the list that they want to talk about. So, you guys are lucky that, I don't even need to be there. It's just going to be great. Fuck you, buddies. Looking forward to Super Series. Yeah, me too. Stay safe. Old boy Phil, thanks. Ben Clapperton. So thank you everyone in the chat. Draconda.com. Gitley. Can we vent about the app roadmap again tonight? Do you want me to? I suppose we'd save that for the show tonight. Me and Nick can start off on that. Nick, thanks for subscribing for 2 years. Woohoo! And having been on the show for longer than that. You guys are great. You can join me tomorrow and also there'll be a bonus show with Owen Jackson, who's running a Tabletop Simulator tournament on Saturday. We're going to be going through the lists. Great guy, great lists. Looking forward to that as well. So we'll do that tomorrow. Draconda, my pleasure. You sub, but then you can't use it. Right, anyway. Yeah, it's a terrible app. My good friend Pete from the 40k Adjacent show linked a podcast called The High Lords of Terror. The High Lords of Terror today said that the person responsible for the app should be dragged in the street and flogged. I wouldn't go that far, but that's how terrible the app is. That people are calling for floggings. So, yeah. Anyway, you guys are the best. Thanks. Patreon, honestly, if it wasn't for you, I would be terrified about where my life is right now. So thank you. Podcast guys, stay hydrated, look after yourselves. All take care of yourselves, and see you soon. Goodbye.